These are the poems I've written so far this year. I'm pretty sure the next book's going to be called Not Like Coffee. Nowhere special. A vanishing window in time. I saw the most beautiful sundown ever, the kind that sets leafless trees on fire. Translucent blends of purples and blues that can only be airbrushed by gods with infinite palettes. And it was all reflected in a stranger's sunglasses traveling backwards on a westbound train, passive aggressively carried from home. When it finally dawned, in fact, what I had seen was outside the coach, I turned to my window, but twilight had succumbed to darkness. All I saw was my own reflection and the streetlights of an unknown town smeared across the glass. I literally wrote that in a car, driving with Joseph early in the year. Here's another driving poem. Punching tickets. Late for work, but making time in the fast lane, blasting Viking black metal, invigorating a cup holder of caffeine, speeding by a line of joyriders, spy two angels passing out gold paper slips just off an exit ramp, under a sign that reads, "Tickets to Heaven." Bemused, tooting twice condescendingly like assholes beep at placard wearers and costume wavers. One of the figures wafts a wispy palm, willowy robe draining loosely down a translucent forearm. I accelerate and speculate. Heaven, I suppose, is for the slow. Arriving for work a minute early, one last sip before the daily grind, closing Spotify, phone a friend who shares my hellish commute to bust on the fools stopping for that circus sideshow. But the call goes directly to voicemail. Cuttings. Walking on booze advice, where human tracks are rarely found on busy days, asphalt crumbling, giving way to dirt, feeding overgrowth in its turn, tiptoeing mossy stepping stones, stumbling on a rusty sign, flaking chips of old paint, trite words we barely construe, take nothing but pictures, leave nothing but footprints, an ineffectual prescription even in the days when people feigned concern. That's all well, but, boo puckering, in my Zen garden the saying is, don't ask, don't tell. Then lowering his august frame to kneel among wildflowers, spying a likely bouquet, and pantomiming snips with his first and middle fingers, a honeybee lands on my arm and dances unperturbed. Hunched and huffing, take these, but Boo extends an unclenched fist and returns to the hunt. Nose in a very splendid bunch, inhaling sweetly, reaching out his imaginary scissors, but, considering intensely, stops. Brushing off his knees and cracking his ancient yet supple spine, he whispers merely, "No, it'll have to do." Home again, Boo vases the bouquet, at ease by a table set for two, while I tray chamomile and green tea, closing my eyes to inhale the steam. Before I regain the light, I am alone, a voice behind my ear whispering, "That's okay." Plucking a flower from glass, spinning it into daydream, maybe I think I'll press the petals in the pages of a book I haven't written yet. I have to remember to make a correction on that one. Solace. The empaths are random and few and steeped in time, chosen by fate unwittingly from those who home near the never-cooling lava flow at the foreboding base of the forbidden mountain. Perpetually hidden in mist and rancid vapor, and renamed every few generations by the descendants of forgotten tribes, always a mythical spirit in winged form, raptor or fowl, an escape from gravity, an ascent from depravity. Acolytes in common dress, toe to heel pad the path up a steamy rise, eyes downcast, but no more glazed with vacancy than yours or mine, waiting for a light to change or for coffee and coins at a drive-through window. They plant their palms on porous stone until their bodies warm like scaly reptiles on sunny rocks. and the spirit releases them to the wild world of men. Anonymous, they gift their warm touch only to strangers, and of such only those in need, whether aware or in a deeper ache. Fireflies alight and tickle a hair on your arm, or a barista hands you a cup with no sleeve, which should burn but subtly seeps like a secret into your skin. You recall a fingertip brushing your palm. The soul in society is sick, and the will to feel is feeble. Angels on earth can heal it, but they can't erase your insignificance. Miles around my room. You know, this is really when the corona virus started taking hold, and people felt cooped up in their houses because they were afraid to go out. Miles around my room. Unfriend me, viral world. Sad face, the loss of trust. Foul is our distance self-enforced, and empathy's sputtering gasp. Shattered my touchscreen, deleting every vitriolic post, feeling petty, righteous just before realizing most of them were mine. Holding my breath while locking doors and windows, watching a pot that never boils, as turbulent as fears and prayers, hoping I won't wear my carpet through, walking miles around my room. Over, under, through. A hand is nice when you blunder into turbulence and your balance fails on mossy stones. The first time you ride a bike without training wheels and you think there's a guiding hand on the seat, when you look around back terrorized and betrayed on that defining moment, you either pedal or crash. When you enter mounted on a stately steed and your ornaments reflect blindingly the noon sun, but your hands are secured behind your back. Over, under, through is how I learned to tie a knot and how we bind more strongly to human. Alienation. Pun of a title. Boo's telling me how to fight the alien nation, and his words are white noise because I'm like in my head, is that science fiction? Or did he wake up xenophobe today and not tell me until my distracted mind catches up, like when you read the subtitles on kung fu movies where the lips and dialogue are out of sync, and I realize he's saying alienation. When I'm locked in, I take my anger out on inanimate objects and sneer in silence, tapping the angry button on innocuous memes. I really hate it the most when someone I despise says something factually accurate but philosophically fallacious. I want to choke it, tie it up, toss it in my trunk, and drive it to the Meadowlands. Staring at my tablespoon while delinquent honey eases down to the open jar, like a teenager sauntering in front of your car on a narrow street as you lock your doors. Everything seems to take forever. Desperation is when you can't tell the difference between do-nothing politicians and know-it-all experts, convincing you to look forward to the apex of the pandemic. Yeah, that's something to look forward to, right? It's not something to look forward to. The apex of the pandemic. Marked. Intractable deck. No matter how long I shuffle or where I cut it, the first card drawn always shows the face of God. Cold and sober poker stare over a paper mask, suppressing a cough that could forever change mankind. Nothing kind about a man dealing coffins and ditches, unfortunate hands, unclaimed bodies like chips, wagered on a losing streak, and the souls cashed in or cashed out. This is a really good coffee drink. It's 10 ounces of Tanzanian coffee made strong in a Keurig with a heaping tablespoon of cocoa powder and a tablespoon of honey and about 4 to 6 ounces of coconut milk. Excellent. Philosophy. For your circuitous yet inexorable routes, I find myself returning like a leaf cycling an eddy in a cold, clear river to a conclusion I've been strenuously resisting my entire conscious life, namely, philosophy is stupid. What have I to gain accepting the world is but a voracious mouth engorging the gullet of God? Once I pondered a bug for curious minutes, furiously backstroking, spinning center of radiating ripples. Then it disappeared in a gulp. A few miles distant from my home, under a roadside sign that reads Wildlife Management Area, a vulture is pulling ridge strings from a velvety body. Around the next curve, I spy red strobe lights reflected in a mangled wreck. Meetings. Coordinates in which place and time coalesce like twins conjoin, difficult, not to mention dangerous to separate. I think I'll be going back to ground when I'm done here. Would you say the body houses the soul any more than the planet houses the ocean, which seems to do as it may please, any more than the heavens house the vacuum that is space, any more than wisdom houses the truth of its own insufficiency? Two people are driving what are to them empty roads lit only by a waning moon. To calculate the odds of their collision, science continuously revises percentages within a spectrum of uncertainty. Philosophy prescribes the possibility as either null or certain, and religion washes the blood from the pavement. Truth. Progress is a beast not so easily tamed as cartoon dragons. We chain ourselves to the current word for truth like fixing our dog to a post that's rotted underground. Why do we say we've been blindsided even after getting smacked in the face? I voted Obama in 2008 because of his silhouette on a poster and the slogan, "Change we can believe in." As if we were suddenly going to stop stabbing each other behind the eye with ice picks or propaganda. Is it only in America the phrase peace dividend could be coined in the middle of a war? Unlikely, but probably only in America when losing a war. The strongest argument against the end of history is the end of history departments. Cafe Americano. And I know it's spelled differently in a coffee house. Monkey on his back and an albatross collar, straw man plating red herring for the elephant in the room. Anonymous fly on the wall overhears no true Scotsman arguing from ignorance with the Grim Reaper, sharing a dish best served cold and deciding between cherry picking and poisoning the well. One hate, two hate, red state, blue state, as far as the eye can see in the wrong direction to the slippery slope, sycophants on wounded knee, appealing to false authority. God and the devil, time. God and the devil play rock, paper, scissors, throwing space, time, and change. Time covers change, space cuts time, and change smashes space. Time, like the atom or the human mind, may be tiny, but can still be split by something finer. And like ignorance, it's insignificant in small amounts, but the aggregate is overwhelming. Little, cut, overwhelming. There is no motion the living day cannot but be divided by in the monkey brain. Not an hourglass or a pocket watch or even an atomic clock. Just the beating heart of time in your hand to dig in a thumb and peel. The outer layer flakes like onion skin drifting to the floor. But the deeper you reach, the more the foamy flesh will yield until it pulls you in, suffocated and swallowed. Crying for dragons. People coming in animal form, getting close enough to trick you, but what could never mask is their stink, even were they rolled in roses. False prophets so often delusional, but false prophets universally and genuinely intentional. Every beast has a sweet spot, hidden for heroes. If the truly evil have a softer side, it's probably rhetorical. I've pitied dragons and convenient villains. I will never weep over a bad man, no matter how dead he may be. Who asked you? 3 words for you, saith the angels, before they laid me away. The kind of request that only makes sense after you've committed. 3 words for the world to remember you by. The last act of a man, and a thinking one at that, an undeniable responsibility. In retrospect, I might have considered longer, but I said the first words that came. Free Leonard Peltier. It could have been worse. Of course, the angels take me away, or the angels laid me away, is an allusion to Mississippi John Hurt's song. The angels laid him away. They laid him 6 feet under the clay. Bitterness. Good people taste bitter, not like coffee, filtered but hot on a stove, picking grinds from their teeth hours later in their sleep. Good people smell bad news coming, foul as tonsil stones from a serious lack of mental hygiene, a sanitizing rinse sloshing centripetal in the brain. But first, I'd like to take the opportunity to batter the barricades we have built between us and draw you safely across the chastising chasm of doubt. I'd like to rip your ugly face off because maybe there's a child underneath who knew you when you still had a heart. I'd like to invite you to the sunrise and share a caring cup of empathy. But first I have to feel it. That's the rub. First I have to feel it. People packing picnics, lugging lawn chairs and wine boxes to see the singularity, like the day trippers who drag their asses to Manassas to watch a war. Those who treat life with no dignity and reap their withered fruit from bristling brambles of belligerence. Scumbags, in other words. Oh, taste and see. Oh, taste and see. Someone accosted the teacher. What does it really look like at the end of space? Does it fade out like practice smiles, teen dancers malingering, dying chorus of a lame single on top of the pops? Does it drop off sharply at the edge of a canyon cliff with no guardrail, or even an orange danger sign where insecure footfalls send pebbles tumbling and echoing faintly in the abyss? Does it dangle in untenable stasis like a Calder mobile, wishing to be caressed by an imperceptible breeze? Does it explode? And the teacher said, no one will see it with their eyes. Remove, if you will, image from imagine. And what do you have? I so wanted to say in. Compare yourself to a dead man. What color is the thing you call life? Then there's always a slow one who says, I understand you can't see it, but can you taste it? Just checking.